Now we're going to take a look at another jump issue, which is that we can get kind of stuck on these ledges and still not be able to jump. And if we go look at our player again, let's go to the scene view, double click on the player. Remember that our ray cast is happening from the center of our body, this little red imaginary line that we shoot down to see if we're on the ground. And since we're not hitting the ground here, our center of our body is kind of hanging off, our character is not marked as grounded, so they can't jump. We can't even click it to do it because it'll get set to false. So what we need to do is modify our code a little bit. Instead of just checking at the center point, we want to check underneath each of the feet. And we'll do that in addition to checking in the center point, just so that if we ever end up on a little tiny ledge where both of our feet are off the edge but the center's on, we can still jump. So we want to keep doing this raycast at the center, but add some additional ones to each of these feet. And before I do that, I want to do the visualization for it. I want to make sure that I can see what I'm doing, see where that's going to be, and that it all kind of makes sense. It makes it a lot easier for me to track down things, debug it, and understand what I'm writing and how it's working. So let's open up the player script. And in our onDraw gizmos, let's make some minor modifications. The first thing I want to do is take line 31 and just move it up. So I'm going to actually select that entire line. So I go to the end of it, and I hold shift, hit the home key on my keyboard, and still holding shift, I just hit delete. Go up, enter, control V to paste. Or if you're using the correct editor, if you're using JetBrains Writer, you can actually select a line, do Control-Alt-Shift, and just do the up arrow and down arrow. You can't do that in here, although there may be a way to rebind hotkeys and make that possible. Let's save, though. I've moved that line up, and let's talk about what I want to do next. So line 31 and 33, let's add a little spacing here, line 32 and 33 are responsible for determining where the line starts and ends, and that, or really determining where the line starts, and then line 33 does the drawing and determines where it ends. So I want to just have it start in 3 places. Instead of doing one line in the center, I'm going to do one line in the center, one on the left, and one on the right. So I'm going to copy lines 33, 32, and 33. Or actually, let's hit Control or Command D to just duplicate them. Go to the beginning of this new line here, which is kind of in the middle of line 33, and hit Enter so we get a fresh line. And the first thing I'm going to call out is that we now have an error here. It says a local variable or function named origin is already defined in this scope. What's happening here is that on line 32, we have vector2 origin, defining origin, not assigning it, but defining it, and then assigning it to be equal to this value. Then on line 34, we're trying to redefine origin. So imagine we had this as a vector2 up here, and then we tried to change it to a vector3 or some other thing. The game engine is going to be all kinds of confused and not know what to do with this. So we can't do that. We can't reassign an object. In fact, we can't even reassign it with or redeclare it with the specific type. We just have to delete that declaration, and then we can reassign the value without redeclaring the variable. So we only have one origin value. It's just getting changed. Here on line 32, it's set to this position. On line 35, it's set to this position, which is actually the exact same position, but we're going to make a small modification to it. So on line 35, instead of using the default origin, we're going to use the default origin plus some little offset to the left. So let's say minus, and let's add in a variable here and call this underscore foot offset. This is going to be a floating point variable that we can adjust in the inspector so that we can determine how far out we want our feet to be kind of at runtime in the editor and not have to guess in code. So this is going to give us a foot offset. We'll generate a serialized field for it by hitting Alt-Enter and choosing Generate Field. Oh, it didn't give me the serialized option. That's okay. We'll generate a field, hit F12, and then go add the serialized field attribute. I'm going to do that over the private keyword. So double click the private keyword, hit the square brace, type in serialized field, just enter and close brace. I want to move this line up, so I'm going to cut it and put it right here below the layer mask. I'll add in an extra line here too so we have some space and clean that up a little bit. All right, I think we're also going to delete out this default sprite on line 18. While we're up here, let's hit Control X or Shift Delete and get rid of that line because we're no longer using it. Remember, our animator is controlling that. That also means that we need to get rid of line 26 that was assigning that. It's always good to delete extra code when you're not using it so that it doesn't confuse you later. And it's important to note that when it was grayed out like that, this light gray, it means it's not used. So we can probably delete it. Most code editors will catch Unity stuff and tell you whether or not it's used now. And that was a good usage for it. Okay, so we've got our foot offset now created. We need to give it a default value. I'm going to give it a 0.5. So half a meter out each way seems like a good value. And then we're going to go back down to our draw gizmos and let's do the right foot. So this should draw our left foot. In fact, let's add a comment here. Right after or before line 36, we'll do a / draw left foot. And then I'm going to select all of line 36 through 38. And again, Control or Command D. Hit the left arrow and enter. Enter again. And this will be draw right foot. So draw right foot is going to be exactly the same as draw left foot, but instead of subtracting our foot offset, we will add to our foot offset. And that's because the bottom left or the left side of the screen is like 0, 0, and the right side, the numbers go up. As you go to the right of the screen, the numbers go up. As you go to the left, they go down into the negatives and so on. So we've got draw right foot and draw left foot. Let's save, go to Unity, and see if our feet are now drawing. We should expect to see 3 red lines, one in the center, one off to the left, and one off to the right, along with a variable here that we can modify for the foot offset. So go to my player and take a look at that. I've got 3 feet or 3 lines drawing and a variable. I can drag this variable in and get it to, oh, what's a good value? It's a little hard to do dragging. How about a 0.3? Somewhere right around there. So it's just outside the feet. Give myself a little bit of extra room. And I think we're so far doing so good. Right now we're not using these values though, but let's save and run around and just make sure that it looks okay. And then I think in the next section, we'll start using these in our raycast. So we run around, looks good so far. I'm going to put my game view down here, dock it, and go double click on my player. And then I just want to see what they look like when we're animating. Seems good. Okay, so far I think it's pretty good. Let's stop and pause right here. Go to the player because I got myself kind of hung there. And you can see right here, I would not be able to jump. My player's not grounded. So I'm thinking maybe I need to pull out this foot offset just a little bit more. Maybe like a 0.35. And then I'd be able to jump. So then I can jump when I'm still pretty far down. But remember, our check isn't actually doing that right now. So let's stop playing. I'm going to save off that value of a 0.35 for our foot offset. Save our scene. Go to our plastic window. Say we added gizmos for left and right foot grounding. And we'll check in our changes.